Emily Harper knew it was over when the Alpha King asked whether another woman had arrived while she was still fixing his crown. Her fingers did not stop. That was the important part. The silver clasp at Adrian Blackwood's throat had always been difficult. Too old, too heavy, made for kings who expected someone else to notice when power sat crooked on their shoulders. Emily had fixed it for him every full moon banquet, every winter council, every treaty ceremony, every morning after he returned from war with blood on his sleeves and silence in his mouth. Tonight, she fixed it for the last time. Adrian stood before the tall mirror in his private chamber, dressed in black velvet and moon-silver thread. The royal cloak fell from his shoulders like a piece of night. His dark hair was combed back. His jaw was clean-shaven. His gray eyes watched his own reflection with the calm focus of a man preparing to be admired. Not once did he look at her. "Has Vanessa arrived?" he asked. Emily's thumb pressed against the clasp. A small click. Perfect. The crown pin sat straight now. As always. "She arrived 10 minutes ago," Emily said. Her voice was soft. Useful. That was how she had learned to sound around him. Not weak. Never that. Just quiet enough not to interrupt the shape of his day. Adrian adjusted one sleeve. "Good. Have Marcus place her near the royal table." Near. Emily looked at his reflection. Still, he did not look back. For 7 years, she had stood near him. Near the throne. Near the war room. Near the healer wing when his wolf tore through his body after battle. Near the council chamber when the northern Pax threatened to withdraw. Near his bedchamber door when fever made him forget he was king and remember only how to suffer. Near. Never chosen. Never named. She stepped back. "The royal table is full," she said. Adrian frowned, not at her, but at the mirror. "Then move someone." The answer came easily to him. Too easily. Emily smoothed the front of his cloak, though there was nothing left to smooth. Her hands had always searched for small tasks when her heart needed somewhere to hide. Who should be moved? Adrian's eyes finally shifted. Not to her face, to her hands on his cloak. As if surprised, she had asked a question. Does it matter? There it was. Not cruelty. Worse. Carelessness. The kind that did not even know it had drawn blood. Emily lowered her hands. "No," she said. "Of course not." Adrian turned away from the mirror and reached for the black gloves on the table. "The moon banquet needs to look united tonight. Vanessa's father controls the southern trade road. If she feels insulted, the council will make noise for weeks." Emily knew that. She knew every trade road, every elder's weakness, every healer's shortage, every minor alpha who smiled at Adrian and sent angry letters to her before dawn. She knew which pack needed grain, which border needed guards, which widow still received royal pension because Emily had corrected the forgotten ledger herself. She knew the kingdom in places Adrian had never bothered to look. But he only saw her when something needed fixing. A clasp. A letter. A crisis. A king. Emily. She looked up. Adrian held out his gloves. Not asking. Waiting. Her chest went very still. For one breath, she remembered the first year. When he had been wounded after the Ironwood battle, and she had sat beside his bed for 3 nights, pressing cool cloth to his skin while his wolf growled at everyone except her. He had opened his eyes once, fever-bright and lost, and whispered her name like it mattered. Emily. Back then, she had mistaken need for love. That was a mistake women made when loneliness wore a crown. She took the gloves, helped him into them, one finger at a time. His hands were warm, strong, familiar in a way that hurt more than distance. When it was done, Adrian flexed his fingers and moved toward the door. "Come," he said. "We are late." "We." The word almost made her smile. Almost. She followed him down the long corridor, 2 steps behind, where she had always walked. Servants bowed. Guards straightened. Lanterns burned gold against the black stone walls. From the banquet hall below came music, laughter, the sound of a kingdom ready to watch its king choose where every woman belonged. At the top of the staircase, Adrian paused. Emily stopped behind him. Below, Vanessa Reed stood in a silver gown beneath the moon banners, bright and graceful, already surrounded by elders. She looked up at Adrian and smiled as if she had been waiting for her future to arrive. Adrian's face softened. Not much. Enough. Emily saw it. And something inside her, tired from years of explaining pain to itself, finally stopped trying. Adrian descended the first step, then glanced back, not at her eyes, but somewhere past her shoulder. Make sure the council notices where she stands tonight. Emily understood. She had always understood too much. Vanessa was not being placed near the royal table. She was being placed beside the throne. Beside him, where Emily had spent 7 years standing without ever being seen. Her hand touched the place where the lunar ring rested beneath her glove. A ring given for duty, not love. A promise made by law, not heart. It felt suddenly heavy. Adrian continued down the stairs. Emily remained at the top for 1 second longer. No tears came. No anger rose. Only a quiet, terrible clarity. Tonight, she would walk into the banquet behind him. She would smile. She would keep the kingdom from seeing the crack. And before dawn, she would stop fixing the crown of a man who had never noticed her hands were bleeding. Emily Harper had learned to love Adrian Blackwood in the quiet places where no one thought to look. Not in ballrooms. Not beneath moon banners. Not during ceremonies where elders praised the Alpha King's strength while she stood 2 steps behind him, holding the documents he had not read and remembering the names he had forgotten. She had loved him in sick rooms. In war rooms after midnight. In the cold hallway outside his chamber when his wolf was too restless to let anyone near. She had loved him in the spaces between duty and exhaustion, where the king became almost human and almost looked at her as if she were more than the woman who kept his life from falling apart. Almost. That was the cruelest word in any language. The moon banquet glittered beneath a ceiling of silver glass. Music moved through the hall like something expensive and empty. Nobles laughed softly behind jeweled hands. Alpha lords stood in polished coats. Luna candidates wore pale gowns and careful smiles, each of them pretending not to measure the distance between Vanessa Reed and the throne. Emily measured it once, then stopped. Vanessa stood exactly where Adrian had wanted her, beside the royal table, close enough that every elder could understand the message, far enough that Adrian could deny it if anyone was foolish enough to ask. Emily stood behind the left pillar with a list of seating corrections in her hand. Of course she did. A servant hurried toward her, face pale. Lady Harper, the Westbrook delegation says their table places them below the Iron Vale pack. They are offended. Emily took the paper. Move Westbrook closer to the eastern fire. Give Iron Vale the hunting alcove. Tell both sides the arrangement honors their border victories. The servant blinked. Will that work? It will if you say it confidently. He ran. Another approached before she had finished breathing. The healer wing sent word. They did not receive the Moonroot shipment. Emily closed her eyes for half a second. Adrian had approved the Southern trade delay without reading her note. Of course. Use the winter reserve, she said. Not the royal stock. The village stock. Send my seal. Your seal? Emily opened her eyes. The healer looked ashamed of asking. Everyone knew the royal seal moved slowly. Emily's seal got medicine delivered before dawn. Yes, she said. Mine. The healer bowed and left. Across the hall, Adrian laughed at something Vanessa said. The sound reached Emily through music and glass and years. She remembered another laugh. 7 winters ago, before the crown had settled fully on Adrian's head. He had come into the library at dawn, soaked from rain, furious from a failed border negotiation. Emily had been young enough then to believe pain made men honest. You should sleep, she had said. I should have a kingdom that obeys, Adrian had answered. You have one that is hungry, grieving, and tired. He had looked at her then, really looked, for one dangerous second. Then he had laughed, low and surprised, and said, You speak to me as if I am not terrifying. Emily, foolish and warm-hearted, had smiled. You are not terrifying when you are wrong. That was the first time she thought he might one day love her. Not because he touched her. He did not. Not because he promised anything. He promised nothing. But because he remembered her tea preference for 3 days afterward. 3 days had been enough for a lonely heart to build a cathedral. Tonight, that cathedral stood empty. Lady Harper, Marcus Hale, Adrian's beta, approached with a careful expression. Marcus was one of the few men in the palace who saw more than he said. That made him useful. It also made him dangerous. The Northern Alphas are asking why you are not seated. Emily glanced at the card in his hand. Her name had been removed. Not misplaced. Removed. A clean absence. She felt nothing at first. Then a small coldness settled beneath her ribs. Who changed the seating? Marcus did not answer quickly. That was answer enough. Emily looked across the hall. Vanessa sat at Adrian's right. The chair that had once been reserved for trade representatives had been dressed in silver ribbon and moon lilies. Beautiful. Deliberate. Adrian did not look toward Emily. He did not need to. Men who took people for granted rarely watched where they placed the knife. Marcus lowered his voice. I can correct it. No, his eyes sharpened. Emily, She folded the seating paper once. Then again. Her hands remained steady. Do not correct what the king wanted seen. The words tasted like iron. Marcus looked toward Adrian, then back at her. For once, he seemed unsure what loyalty required. Emily spared him the decision. Tell the Northern Alphas I am managing council matters tonight. That is not a seat. No, she said softly. It never was. Marcus said nothing. Good. Pity would have made the moment vulgar. A toast began near the throne. Adrian rose, tall and untouchable beneath the moonlight, his crown clasp shining perfectly at his throat because Emily had made sure it did. Vanessa stood with him when the hall applauded. No one asked why. No one looked for Emily. That was how she finally understood the shape of her life. She had not been replaced tonight. Replacement required someone to first admit she had occupied a place. Emily had only been useful. Useful things were moved when decoration arrived. She looked down at her gloved hand, where the Luna ring pressed against her skin like a quiet insult. Then she looked at Adrian one last time as the hall cheered for a future he had not named but had clearly arranged. Her love did not die loudly. It did not break the chandelier. It did not beg. It simply stood in the back of the room, folded a seating chart into a perfect square, and stopped waiting for a man who had never learned the cost of being waited for. The applause lasted longer than Emily Harper expected. That was the first cruelty. Not that Vanessa Reed stood beside the Alpha King. Not that Adrian Blackwood allowed it. Not even that the moon lilies decorating Vanessa's chair had once been Emily's suggestion for diplomatic ceremonies, chosen because Northern Pax considered them a symbol of loyalty that survived winter. No, the cruelty was that the room accepted the change so easily, as if a woman could vanish from a place she had held for 7 years and leave no dent in the air. Emily stood near the left pillar with the folded seating chart in her hand and watched the kingdom understand its king. Vanessa smiled beautifully beneath the silver glass ceiling. Her blonde hair had been pinned with small pearls. Her gown caught the moonlight in soft waves. She looked graceful, expensive, and untouched by the small violences required to keep a crown steady. Adrian stood beside her, not touching, not claiming, not yet. But his body had turned toward her in a way every alpha in the hall could read. A promise without words. The elders saw it. The visiting Lunas saw it. The Southern trade delegates certainly saw it. Emily lowered her gaze before anyone could see understanding settle on her face. Too late. One of the older councilwomen approached, her smile thin enough to cut silk. Lady Harper, she said. There seems to be some confusion about seating. Emily looked up. No confusion. The woman's eyes moved toward the royal table. But your chair was needed. For Miss Reed. Emily held the woman's gaze. The councilwoman looked away first, but not before pity flickered across her face. Pity was uglier than laughter. Laughter admitted it was cruel. Pity dressed cruelty in perfume. Emily unfolded the seating chart again. The Eastmere delegation needs to be moved before the second toast. They cannot sit beside Greycliff after last spring's border dispute. The councilwoman blinked. You are still managing the banquet? Emily almost smiled. Almost. Of course she was. The kingdom did not stop needing her because the king had stopped seeing her. Yes, she said. Someone has to. The words were too honest. The councilwoman heard it. So did Marcus Hale, standing a few feet away with 2 wine cups in his hands and no intention of drinking either. His face tightened. Emily turned before he could speak. She crossed the edge of the hall with quiet steps, correcting servants, redirecting messengers, smoothing conflicts before they reached Adrian's ears. A tray broke near the southern doors. She sent another before the guests noticed. The Ironvale Alpha complained about being placed below Westbrook. She solved it with one sentence and a lie about symbolic honor. The healer wing sent a second message. She sent her own seal again. Her name moved through the hall in whispers only when there was a problem. Lady Harper will know. Ask Emily. Where is Emily? Never when there was honor. Only when something was on fire. At the center of the room, Adrian raised his glass. The hall quieted. Emily stopped beside a servant carrying winter wine. Adrian's voice filled the banquet chamber, deep and controlled, shaped for obedience. Tonight, we honor unity. The nobles lifted their glasses. Emily looked at the crown clasp at his throat. Straight. Perfect. Her hands had made him ready to stand before them. As always, we honor loyalty between pacts, Adrian continued, and the strength of alliances that secure our kingdom's future. Vanessa lowered her eyes at exactly the right moment. Soft, modest, rehearsed, perhaps, or simply gifted at being chosen. A murmur moved through the hall. Emily felt it before she heard it. The kingdom leaning toward a new story. Adrian lifted his glass toward Vanessa. To those who stand with us in the years ahead. Us. Emily's fingers curled around the folded chart. Not around the glass. Not around a blade. Only paper. A weak thing. Still, the edge bit into her glove. The hall drank. Vanessa drank. Adrian drank. Emily did not. A young lord near the royal table whispered too loudly. So it is settled, then? Another answered, not officially. A third laughed softly. Does it need to be? Look at where she sits. Emily felt Marcus move closer. Do you want me to stop this? He asked quietly. She did not look at him. Stop what? The talk. The talk is only repeating what everyone can see. Marcus lowered his voice further. Emily. There it was again. Her name, spoken like a warning. She was tired of people saying her name only when they feared she might finally react. Across the hall, Vanessa leaned toward Adrian and said something too soft for Emily to hear. Adrian listened. He listened. That was what broke through the numbness. Not Vanessa. Not the chair. Not the toast. The listening. Emily had spent years speaking in precise reports because Adrian disliked emotional explanations. She had learned to say less, ask less, need less. She delivered kingdoms in clean sentences and buried her heart between facts so he would not be inconvenienced by it. But Vanessa whispered once, and he bent his head. Emily placed the seating chart on the nearest table. Marcus noticed immediately. What are you doing? Nothing improper. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have. She stepped away from the pillar. For once, she walked through the center of the hall. A few people looked up, then more. The motion was small, but Emily Harper had been still for so long that movement itself became an announcement. Adrian saw her halfway across the room. His expression changed first with surprise, then irritation. Not concern, not guilt. Irritation, as if she had stepped out of her assigned shadow without permission. Emily reached the royal table and stopped. The hall quieted by degrees. Vanessa's smile faltered. Adrian set his glass down. Emily. There was warning in it. She heard it, ignored it. Her eyes moved to Vanessa's chair, then to Adrian's face. I came to correct one final detail. Adrian's jaw tightened. This is not the time. No, Emily said softly. It never was. A strange silence fell. She removed the small silver place marker that had been hidden beneath the lilies. Not Vanessa's. Hers. Emily Harper. Still engraved. Still placed there originally before someone covered it with flowers and expectation. She held it up for one breath. Just long enough for the front tables to see. Then she laid it flat before Adrian. Vanessa went pale. Adrian's eyes darkened. Emily, he said again, lower this time. She met his gaze. For the first time that night, he truly looked at her. Too late to be mercy. Too early to be regret. I believe Miss Reed's place is clear now, Emily said. Her voice did not tremble. That mattered. She will not need mine hidden beneath flowers. No one moved. No one drank. No one laughed. Emily stepped back. She did not wait for permission. As she turned, one elder whispered, horrified, Lady Harper. Emily kept walking. Behind her, Adrian did not call her back. That should have hurt. It did. But the pain arrived like weather over land already burned. At the far doors, a servant rushed toward her with another crisis written across his face. Emily stopped before he could speak. Take it to the king, she said. The servant froze. But my lady, to the king. Her words were quiet. Final. The servant looked past her toward Adrian, helpless. Emily almost pitied him. Almost. Then she walked out of the moon banquet alone, leaving the music, the glass, the lilies, the chair, the whispers, The corridor outside the moon banquet felt colder than the hall. Emily Harper noticed that first. Not the silence behind her. Not the way the music hesitated after she left, then struggled to continue as if nothing had happened. Not the faint, gathering murmur of nobles realizing that something had been exposed, and no one knew yet whether to call it scandal, grief, or poor timing. Cold, clean, honest. Emily walked without hurrying. That mattered. Running would have made it look like defeat. Stopping would have made it look like she was waiting to be followed. She was doing neither. She moved through the black stone corridor with her shoulders straight and her gloved hands empty, passing servants who lowered their eyes too quickly. They had seen. Of course they had. Servants always saw first. Kings were usually last. Lady Harper. Marcus Hale's voice came from behind her. Emily stopped. Not because he called. Because she chose to. Marcus reached her side, breathing slightly harder than usual, though he would rather die than admit he had rushed after anyone. In the banquet hall, he was Adrian's beta, composed and loyal. Here, beneath the cold lanterns, he looked almost human, almost worried. "You should not be alone right now," he said. Emily looked down the corridor. "I have been alone for years." The words were not sharp. That made them worse. Marcus said nothing. "Good." She continued walking. After a moment, he matched her pace. Not too close. Marcus had always been careful in the ways Adrian never thought to be. "Emily," he said quietly, "what happened in there will travel through the palace before midnight. I know. The elders will turn it into something political. It was political before I touched the place marker." He glanced at her. She did not return the look. Her pulse remained calm in a way that felt unnatural. Perhaps the body only allowed so much pain before it became efficient. Perhaps 7 years of swallowing humiliation had trained her too well. They passed the western gallery, where tall windows looked over the palace gardens. Moonlight silvered the hedges. Beyond them, the road curved toward the servants' gate, then farther into the dark forests surrounding Blackwood territory. Emily saw the path, noted the guards, counted the distance. Old habits she did not know she had been building until tonight. Marcus followed her gaze. His face changed. "No," Emily stopped again. This time, slowly. Marcus swallowed. "You are thinking of leaving." "I am thinking of many things." "That is not a denial." "No," his jaw tightened. "Adrian is angry now. Give him time. Tomorrow he will expect me at council with corrected notes." Marcus fell silent. Because he knew. They both knew. Adrian Blackwood did not understand absence until it caused inconvenience. He did not understand wounds until they bled on something important. Emily had spent years making sure nothing bled where he could see it. That had been her mistake. A sound came from behind them. Footsteps. Controlled. Familiar. Marcus straightened before Emily turned. Adrian stood at the end of the corridor in his black banquet cloak, crown clasp still perfect at his throat. The moonlight from the gallery windows cut across his face, making his anger look almost carved. Vanessa was not with him. That should not have mattered. It did not comfort her. "Leave us," Adrian said. Marcus did not move immediately. The pause was small. Dangerous. Adrian's eyes shifted to his beta. "Marcus." Emily spoke before the room could become a test of loyalty. "It is fine." Marcus looked at her. She nodded once. Only once. He hated it. But he left. When his footsteps faded, the corridor became too quiet. Adrian came closer, stopping several steps away. Not because he feared her. Because kings like distance when they intended to be obeyed. "What was that?" he asked. Emily folded her hands before her. The truth becoming visible. His jaw hardened. "Do not play games with me. I have never played games with you." "No. You chose to make a scene in front of my court." Emily looked at him then. Really looked. At the man she had loved in sick rooms, war rooms, and dawn libraries. At the king who had once remembered her tea preference for 3 days and unknowingly purchased 7 years of devotion with it. At the alpha who could command armies but had never learned how to notice the woman holding his kingdom together in silence. "A scene?" she asked. Her voice remained soft. Adrian's irritation deepened. "You embarrassed Vanessa." There it was. "Not me. Not yourself. Vanessa." Emily felt the final small thread inside her loosen. Not snap. Loosen. As if it had been waiting for permission to stop holding. "She sat over my name," Emily said. "That was not intentional." Was it not? He looked away for half a breath. Too short for apology. Long enough for confession. Emily nodded slowly. "I see." Adrian exhaled, impatient. "You are overreacting." The corridor became very still. Even the torches seemed to quiet. Emily had imagined that word many times over the years. Overreacting. Sensitive. Difficult. Ungrateful. Words men used when a woman finally described the pain they had benefited from ignoring. She had thought hearing it would hurt more. Instead, it clarified. "No," she said. "I am reacting very late." Something shifted in his expression. A flicker. Not regret. Not yet. Concern, perhaps, but only because she was not performing the role he understood. He lowered his voice. "Emily, you know what tonight required." "Yes." "Vanessa's family controls the southern trade road." "Yes." "The council needed to see unity." "Yes." "Then why make this personal?" Emily almost smiled. Almost. Because the question itself was the answer. "For 7 years," she said, "I made your personal neglect look like political stability." Adrian went silent. She had never spoken to him like that. Not because she lacked the words. Because love had made her careful with truths he had never been careful enough to deserve. His eyes darkened. That is unfair. Is it? You had a position here. A position can be replaced by seating. He flinched. Barely. But she saw it. Good. Let him learn the shape of small cuts. I trusted you, Adrian said. The words came hard, almost accusing. Emily's chest moved once with a breath that did not become laughter. You trusted me to fix what you did not want to understand. That is not true. Tell me one thing I wanted this year. He opened his mouth. Stopped. The silence answered before he could. Emily waited anyway. She deserved to hear him fail. Adrian's gaze moved over her face, searching perhaps for clues he had never bothered to gather before. Her favorite flower. Her preferred seat. The way she took tea now, not 7 years ago. Whether she still hated winter wine. Whether her hands trembled after council fights. Whether she slept. Nothing. He had a kingdom of information in front of him and no map for her. Emily stepped back. The movement pulled him from the silence. Where are you going? To finish the evening's work. His expression hardened with relief, as if familiar ground had returned. Good. The Western delegates need. No, she said. One word. Small. Clean. Adrian stopped. Emily removed the folded seating chart from her sleeve and placed it on the narrow window ledge between them. Give it to Vanessa, she said. If she is to stand beside you, she should learn where everyone sits. Adrian stared at the paper as if it were a blade. Emily. There was warning again. And something else beneath it now. Uncertainty. Too late, but there. She turned toward the stairs leading to the administrative wing. Behind her, Adrian spoke, lower. She will not know what to do with it. Emily paused. The truth of it passed between them. Ugly. Bare. He knew Vanessa could not do what Emily did. He had known and chosen the picture anyway. Emily looked back over her shoulder. Then perhaps the kingdom will finally notice who has been doing it. Adrian's face changed, but she did not stay to name it. She walked away before he could ask her to fix the damage he had made by assuming she would always remain available to mend it. At the end of the corridor, Marcus waited in the shadow of an archway. He had heard enough. Not all. Enough. Emily stopped before him. You should go back to him. He does not need me right now. Yes, Emily said quietly. He does. Marcus studied her face. Then his eyes lowered to her gloved hand, where the Luna ring still pressed beneath fabric. Emily, he said, very softly. What are you going to do? For the first time that night, the answer did not frighten her. She looked toward the eastern stairwell, toward her rooms, toward the ring, the letters, the crown clasp she would never fix again after dawn. I am going to stop coming back, she said. Marcus closed his eyes, as if he had expected it, as if he had feared it, as if, somewhere deep down, he knew Adrian Blackwood had earned this silence long before tonight. Emily passed him without another word. Behind her, the palace continued breathing. Music resumed. Nobles whispered. The Alpha King stood in a corridor with a seating chart on the window ledge and a crown clasp at his throat. He had not fastened himself. And Emily Harper walked toward the rooms where she would remove the ring that had mistaken duty for love. Emily Harper's room looked exactly as it had that morning. That was what hurt most. The world had shifted beneath her feet. The moon banquet had gone silent around her name. Adrian Blackwood had stood in a corridor and learned, for one brief and useless moment, that he did not know a single thing she wanted. But her room remained untouched. Neat. Warm. Obedient. A fire burned low in the hearth because she had ordered it prepared before the banquet. A blue shawl lay folded over the chair by the window. 3 council reports waited on her desk, each marked with colored thread according to urgency. On the bedside table sat the small porcelain cup she always used for late tea. Everything ready for the woman who would return. Emily stood in the doorway and understood, with a strange calm, that she had built her own cage out of reliability. No one had locked her in. They had simply learned she would always come back. She entered and closed the door. Not loudly. There was no need. The silence deserved respect. For a long moment, she did not move. Then she began with the gloves. One finger at a time. Slowly. The way she had helped Adrian put on his before the banquet. When the right glove came free, the Luna ring caught on the fabric. Emily paused. Silver moonstone. Blackwood crest. Thin band of royal gold. A ring given to her 3 years ago in the council chamber, not the chapel. Adrian had placed it on her hand after signing the alliance decree that named her Luna regent in all but affection. He had said, "This will make things easier. Not sacred. Not mine. Not stay. Easier. She had smiled then. God, she had smiled. Because loving someone alone made even convenience feel like being chosen if it came dressed in ceremony. Emily pulled the ring from her finger. Her skin beneath it was pale where the band had rested too long. A mark without a bond. She placed the ring on the desk beside the council reports. It looked smaller there. Less powerful. More honest. Next came the letters. They were hidden in the bottom drawer beneath old winter ledgers and sealed supply orders. 23 of them. Never sent. Never meant to be sent after the first year, perhaps, but kept because Hope was a foolish archivist. Adrian, you look tired today. Adrian, your wolf calmed when I spoke. I do not think you noticed. Adrian, I know Vanessa's father has written again. Be careful. Men who offer roads often ask for thrones later. Adrian, I loved you before loving you became another duty. Emily did not read them all. She did not need to. She remembered every word because she had swallowed them before ink ever dried. One by one, she tied the letters with plain string. No ribbon. No seal. No dramatic flame. Burning them would have made the room smell of grief, and she was tired of grief taking up space. She placed the bundle into her traveling satchel. Not because she wanted to keep them forever, because she was not leaving her heart behind for servants to find and pity. The crown clasp came last. Not the one at Adrian's throat. The spare. An older one. Kept in her drawer because the royal clasp had loosened twice during winter council, and Adrian had once said, without thinking, Emily will have another. Emily will have another. Emily would know. Emily would fix it. Emily would come back. She took the clasp in her palm. Silver. Heavy. Cold now. A small wolf's head carved with black stones for eyes. For years, she had polished it before ceremonies, checked its hinges, tucked it safely away after nights when Adrian returned too exhausted to remove his own cloak. A servant knocked once. Emily turned. My lady, a young voice asked through the door. Beta Hale sent word. The Western delegates are asking for you. Of course they were. She looked at the ring on the desk. Then the reports. Then the door. Tell Beta Hale the documents are on my desk. A pause. But they asked for you, my lady. Emily closed her eyes. The old instinct rose. Go. Fix it. Do not let anything crack. Do not let Adrian look unprepared. Do not let the kingdom suffer because your heart is tired. She opened her eyes. No, she said. The words seemed to change the room. The servant outside went very still. My lady. No, small. Quiet. Complete. Emily crossed to the desk and took the top report. She had already corrected the border clauses. Already marked the missing tax figures. Already written, in the margin, that Westbrook would refuse unless offered winter grazing rights. She placed the report beside the Luna ring. Then the second. Then the third. A neat stack. Her final work. Not unfinished. Never that. Emily Harper did not leave chaos behind. She left accuracy. If Adrian could not survive without her tenderness, that was grief. If he could not survive without her competence, that was evidence. She opened the wardrobe. There were gowns suitable for a Luna. Silver silk, blue velvet, white ceremonial lace she had worn once while standing beside Adrian at a treaty signing where everyone praised his diplomacy and no one knew she had written every word. She touched none of them. Instead, she took a plain traveling dress, dark cloak, wool stockings, and soft boots suited for servant corridors, not royal exits. The mirror caught her reflection as she changed. A white American woman with soft fair skin, a cute round face, warm brown eyes, and a body the court had always tried to make smaller with tailoring, silence, and expectation. Emily looked at herself for a long time. Not beautiful enough for songs, perhaps. Not sharp enough for court games. Not thin enough for Vanessa's kind of admiration. But still here. Still hers. That was enough. She removed the pins from her hair. Brown waves fell around her face, loosening the version of herself the palace preferred. Then she washed the banquet powder from her cheeks until her skin looked like skin again. Human. Tired. Free enough to begin. Near midnight, Marcus came. She knew his knock. 2 taps. A pause. 1 more. Emily opened the door before he could speak. Marcus looked at her traveling cloak, then at the satchel, then past her, to the ring on the desk. His face changed. Not surprise. Grief. You are truly leaving. Yes. Does he know? No, will you tell him? Emily looked back at the ring. The spare crown clasp sat beside it now. Silver wolf eyes turned toward the reports as if guarding a kingdom that had never guarded her. No, Marcus swallowed. He will chase you. The words should have frightened her. They did not. Not anymore. He will be late, she said. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, he held out a small folded paper. The servants' gate changes guards at fourth bell. The east corridor will be empty for 6 minutes. Emily took the paper. Their fingers did not touch. Why? She asked. Marcus's voice lowered. Because loyalty to a king does not require helping him destroy the woman who kept him standing. For the first time that night, something almost broke in Emily. Not loudly. Never loudly. Her eyes stung. She blinked once, and it passed. Thank you. Marcus bowed his head, not as beta to Luna, but as one witness to another. At fourth bell, Emily Harper left her room. She did not look back until she reached the corridor's end. From there, she could see the desk through the half-open door, the Luna ring, the crown clasp, the corrected reports. No letter, no explanation, no plea dressed as farewell. Adrian had never needed her words when she stayed. He would not receive them when she left. Emily turned away. The palace slept behind her, still believing morning would return everything to its proper place. By dawn, it would learn there was no proper place for a woman who had stopped waiting. The throne room looked larger without Emily Harper in it. That was the first thing Adrian Blackwood noticed. Not because he missed her. Not yet. Missing required humility, and the Alpha King had not reached that part of his ruin. He noticed the empty chair because it was inconvenient. The left side of the throne had always been occupied before council began. Emily sat there with her notes arranged by urgency, quiet hands moving across parchment, brown eyes lowered until someone said something foolish enough to require correction. She never interrupted loudly. She did not need to. Emily could redirect a room with one sentence and make every man believe he had chosen wisdom on his own. This morning, the chair was empty. No shawl over the back. No ink bottle beside the armrest. No neat stack of treaties waiting near her knee. Just polished black wood and silence. Adrian stood before the council table with his crown clasped slightly crooked. No one told him. That irritated him more than it should have. Marcus Hale entered last, carrying the Western delegate reports beneath one arm. His expression was controlled in the way it became controlled only when he was hiding something from his king. Adrian saw it. Ignored it. For now. Where is Emily? He asked. The question fell into the room. Several elders looked down. One shifted papers. Another glanced toward the empty chair as if it might answer more safely than a person. Marcus placed the reports on the table. Lady Harper is not attending council. Adrian's jaw tightened. I can see that. No one breathed too loudly. She left the corrected documents in her room. Marcus continued. Then send for her. Marcus did not move. That was when irritation sharpened into something colder. Adrian turned fully toward him. I gave an order. Marcus met his eyes. She is not in her room. The council chamber became very still. Adrian heard the words. Understood them. Rejected them. She is in the administrative wing. No, the healer wing. No, the East Library. No, my king. The title landed wrong. Too formal. Too final. Adrian's wolf stirred beneath his skin, restless and offended. Emily was often absent from sight because she was fixing one problem or another. That was her nature. Her role. Her habit. She was somewhere. She was always somewhere. Find her, Adrian said. Marcus's face did not change. The guards already searched the palace. A thin sound moved through the elders. Not quite a gasp. Enough. Adrian looked at them, and the sound died. What do you mean searched? Marcus took a breath. A careful one. She left before dawn through the servants' gate. For a moment, Adrian felt nothing. Not pain. Not fear. Only the absurdity of the statement. Emily did not leave. Emily corrected. Emily endured. Emily returned with quiet eyes and finished work no one else understood. She did not walk through servants' gates like a dismissed maid carrying a satchel into the dark. Adrian's voice lowered. Who permitted that? Marcus did not look away. She did. Something dangerous passed through the room. An elder cleared his throat unwisely. Perhaps Lady Harper needed time to calm herself after last night's display. Adrian's eyes moved to him. The elder went pale. Last night. The place marker. Vanessa's chair. Emily standing before the royal table with a softness that had cut deeper than accusation. She will not need mine hidden beneath flowers. Adrian had thought anger would be enough to bring her back into place by morning. Anger had always worked on rooms. On soldiers. On councilmen. On enemies. Emily had never required anger. That was why he had forgotten what might happen if patience ran out. A servant entered with a tray of sealed letters, saw the empty chair, and froze. Adrian's temper snapped toward something easier. Why are the Westbrook clauses not copied? The servant looked terrified. Lady Harper usually. She is not here. The words struck the room harder when he said them himself. The servant's eyes filled with panic. Then I can take them to the scribes. Marcus opened the top report. The clauses are corrected. She marked the errors before leaving. Before leaving, Adrian looked down. Emily's handwriting filled the margins. Precise, elegant, merciless. Westbrook will refuse unless granted winter grazing rights. Ironvale cannot sit beside Westbrook without insult. Southern Moonroot shipment delayed by your approval. Use village reserve or healers will lack medicine before second bell. Your approval. Adrian stared at those two words. Not accusation. Worse. Fact. A messenger arrived from the healer wing before anyone spoke. Then another from the treasury. Then the northern delegation sent word they would not enter council until their seating insult was resolved. By the time the palace bells marked mid-morning, the kingdom had begun asking for Emily in 5 different directions. And Emily Harper was not there to answer. Adrian remained standing beside the empty chair, crown clasped crooked, council reports open, his wolf pacing harder beneath his bones. She will come back, he said. No one replied. So he looked at Marcus. His beta's silence irritated him most. She always does, Adrian added. Marcus closed his eyes. Only for a second. When he opened them, there was something in his face Adrian did not like. Not defiance. Not pity. Grief already accepted. My king, Marcus said quietly. I do not think she left so you would chase her. Adrian's hand closed around the back of Emily's chair. The wood creaked. Outside the throne room, more footsteps gathered. More problems. More voices asking for the woman he had assumed would never become absent enough to matter. He looked at the empty chair again. For the first time, it did not look inconvenient. It looked deliberate, a space she had made with her own hands. A silence arranged as carefully as every treaty she had ever corrected. Vanessa entered near noon, dressed in pale silver, beautiful and uncertain. She paused when she saw the council table covered in reports. Adrian. Several elders looked at her, then at the empty chair, then away. Adrian saw the comparison happen in their eyes before Vanessa did. It angered him, not because they were wrong, because for one sharp instant, he understood they were not. Vanessa stepped closer. They said Lady Harper is gone. Adrian's voice came cold. She is upset. Marcus looked down. Adrian hated him for it. Vanessa touched the back of the chair she had sat beside last night. Should I help? No one answered quickly enough. That silence was its own answer. Vanessa's hand withdrew. Adrian looked at the reports again. Emily's final notes waited in perfect order. No tear stains. No dramatic farewell. No plea. No explanation he could dismiss as emotion. Only work. Finished. Accurate. Abandoned. The crown clasp at his throat slipped slightly with his breath. For the first time in years, there was no gentle hand to fix it. Adrian reached up and adjusted it himself. Badly. The silver wolf head sat crooked beneath his jaw. Marcus saw, said nothing. That silence cut deeper than correction would have. Adrian turned toward the windows overlooking the eastern road. The servants' gate lay beyond the lower gardens, hidden from the throne room by walls he had never thought about because he had never needed to escape through them. Emily had thought about them. Emily had counted bells. Emily had left. Before dawn. Without a letter. Without permission. Without looking back. Adrian's wolf pressed against his ribs now, no longer offended. Uneasy. The room seemed colder around the empty chair. At last, the Alpha King spoke. Prepare, riders. Marcus went still. My king. Adrian did not look at him. She cannot have gone far. The words sounded certain. They needed to. Behind him, Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then he said, very softly, You may be surprised how far a woman can go when she has been leaving for years. Adrian turned. But Marcus had already lowered his eyes. Proper. Obedient. Unforgiving. The council waited. The kingdom waited. The empty chair waited for no one. And somewhere beyond the servants' gate, Emily Harper was finally moving through a world that did not yet know she had stopped belonging to the man who had only begun to notice her absence. The kingdom learned Emily Harper's name before Adrian Blackwood learned how to miss her. That was the second humiliation. Not public. Not yet. Worse. Practical. By sunset, the palace had become a machine with one small missing piece, and every golden wheel had begun to grind. The Northern Alphas refused to enter the second council session because their seating insult had not been corrected with the proper language. The healer wing reported that the Moonroot Reserve had been sent to the wrong storage chamber because no one understood Emily's color-coded supply notes. Westbrook sent a sealed warning that winter grazing rights had been ignored again. Ironvale accused the Crown of favoritism. The Treasury discovered 3 unsigned pension orders for border widows. All of them had Emily's handwriting in the margins. All of them had been waiting for Adrian's attention. All of them had been invisible because Emily had made invisibility look like order. Adrian stood in the administrative wing while clerks brought him ledgers, maps, and letters with frightened hands. He had fought wars with less confusion than this. Why was this not brought to me earlier? He demanded. A young clerk went pale. Lady Harper handled these before they reached your desk, and no one thought to learn how. The clerk looked down. The silence answered. No. No one had learned because Emily had always known. Marcus Hale stood near the window, arms folded, face unreadable. Adrian hated that expression now. It had become a mirror placed where he least wanted one. You knew, Adrian said. Marcus looked at him. I knew she worked too much. That is not what I asked. No, Marcus said quietly. But it is the answer I can give without saying something you will punish me for. Several clerks froze. Adrian's wolf lifted its head inside him. A warning. Marcus did not lower his gaze. That was new. Or perhaps Adrian had only begun noticing when men stopped hiding the truth from him. The door opened before he could answer. Vanessa Reed entered with 2 ladies behind her, dressed in silver again, though the color seemed colder today. Her smile was careful. I asked the kitchens to prepare a smaller supper for council, she said. Since everyone seems tense. Adrian stared at her. A smaller supper. The kingdom was splitting along trade lines, and she had brought supper. One of the clerks made the mistake of glancing at Emily's empty desk. Vanessa saw it. Her smile tightened. I am trying to help. No one spoke. That silence was not cruelty. It was measurement. The palace had begun measuring Vanessa against the woman whose chair she had covered in flowers. It was unfair, perhaps. It was also unavoidable. Adrian heard Emily's voice in memory, calm and precise. The Southern Trade Road is not loyalty. It is leverage. He had not listened. He had been busy watching Vanessa smile. Leave us, he said. Vanessa's eyes widened. Adrian, please. The words softened the order enough to wound her pride more cleanly. She left with her ladies, silver skirts whispering against stone. When the door closed, Marcus placed one of Emily's marked reports on the table. Westbrook will not sign without grazing rights, he said. I can read. Yes, Marcus said. Now. The room went silent. Adrian turned slowly. Every clerk looked like they wished to disappear through the floor. Marcus did not move. The beta had served him for 12 years. Through wars. Through succession bloodshed. Through nights when Adrian's wolf clawed at his skin, and only one voice outside the door had kept the beast from breaking the frame. Emily's voice. Not Marcus's. Not Vanessa's. Emily's. Adrian looked away first. That, too, was new. Where is she? He asked. Marcus took a folded paper from his coat. Not immediately. As if deciding whether Adrian deserved it. That was dangerous. Adrian let him decide. That was more dangerous. A servant at the Eastern Road saw a woman matching her description higher passage with a merchant cart before dawn. The cart was bound for Monroe territory. Monroe. The name struck the room like iron. Caleb Monroe controlled the borderlands beyond the Eastern Pass. A rival alpha. Not openly hostile. Not loyal either. A man who had once offered Adrian an alliance and withdrawn it after Emily quietly corrected a clause that would have cost Blackwood 3 villages over 10 years. Adrian remembered Caleb looking at Emily afterward. Not with hunger. Worse. Respect. His hand closed around the report. She went to Monroe? She went east, Marcus said. The rest is not confirmed. But it would be. Adrian knew it. Emily did not stumble blindly when hurt. She planned. Even grief in her hands would have a route, a budget, and a second option hidden beneath the first. The realization made his chest tighten. Not romantically. Not softly. With fear. Because he had never once imagined Emily choosing a future that did not include returning to correct his. Outside, voices rose near the healer wing. Another argument. Another mistake reaching the surface now that the woman who prevented them was gone. Adrian walked to Emily's desk. It had been cleaned. Too clean. A clerk had placed the lunar ring there on a square of black cloth beside the spare crown clasp, and 3 completed reports. They looked ceremonial in their arrangement. Or condemning. Adrian picked up the ring. It was cold, absurdly small for something that had carried so much law and so little tenderness. He remembered giving it to her. This will make things easier. The words returned with perfect cruelty. He had not even looked at her face when he said them. He had been reading a treaty, thinking about council objections, thinking the ring would formalize what she already did, secure what she already gave, quiet what she never asked for. Emily had smiled. He remembered that now, not because he had valued it then, because he could not understand how she had managed it. Adrian closed his fist around the ring until the edges bit his palm. She loved me, he said. No one answered. He looked at Marcus. Did she? Marcus's face tightened. There were questions that sounded like ignorance and landed like insult. Yes, Marcus said finally. For years. The room seemed to lose air. Adrian had known, perhaps, somewhere beneath convenience, beneath duty, beneath the arrogance of being waited for. He had known her eyes softened when he entered, known she remembered things he had not earned being remembered, known she stayed too late and stood too close to be explained by politics alone. He had known enough to use it. Not cruelly, he told himself. Then the lie collapsed. Hughes did not become innocent because it was quiet. She never said. Marcus's answer came softly. Would you have hurt her if she had? Adrian did not strike him, did not shout. That restraint would have impressed another room. Here, it only proved the blade had gone in deep enough to still him. He set the ring down, then picked up the crown clasp. The spare one. The one Emily had kept because he always assumed she would have another solution hidden somewhere within reach. The metal was perfectly polished. Of course it was. Adrian's thumb moved over the carved wolf head. A memory surfaced. Emily standing behind him before a winter treaty, tightening the clasp with cold fingers. He had been impatient. She had said nothing. He had asked whether the northern envoy had arrived. She had answered. He had walked away. How many endings had looked like ordinary mornings because he had not bothered to watch her face? The administrative wing fell silent around him. For once, no one asked Emily where something was. No one could. The loss became visible in layers. Not love first. Competence. Then loyalty. Then tenderness. Then the terrible realization that she had given all three and he had named them convenience. Adrian turned toward the window. The eastern sky had gone dark blue. Snow clouds gathered beyond the palace walls. Somewhere on that road, Emily Harper was moving farther from him with every hour he spent understanding too late. Prepare, riders, he said again. This time, no one moved immediately. Marcus stepped forward. My king. Adrian did not turn. She left deliberately, Marcus said. If you go after her as king, she will only see the crown chasing what it lost. Adrian's jaw tightened. What would you suggest? Marcus was silent long enough that the answer became heavier than advice. Go as the man who finally knows what he did. Adrian looked down at the ring in his palm. A mark without love. A duty without tenderness. A circle he had mistaken for a chain that would hold her. She may not listen, he said. Marcus's voice was quiet. That will be her right. Her right. The words scraped against every alpha instinct in him. Claim. Retrieve. Correct. Command. But Emily had left those instincts on her desk with the ring. If he followed them now, he would only prove why she had gone. Adrian closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he tried to imagine not what he needed from Emily, but what she might need from him. The answer was humiliating. Distance. Truth. No order dressed as apology. When he opened his eyes, the room looked different. Not smaller. Less obedient. Send no royal escort, he said. Marcus watched him carefully. One horse, Adrian continued. No banners. No summons. A clerk stared. Marcus did not. What message should I send ahead? Adrian looked at Emily's empty desk. The ring. The clasp. The clean absence where her life had been made useful. No message. His voice lowered. She left without asking permission. I will not insult her by asking for notice before I arrive too late. Marcus bowed his head once. Not approval. Acknowledgement. Adrian turned toward the eastern road as the first snow began to fall beyond the windows. The kingdom was still breaking in small, practical ways behind him. For once, he let it. Let the council feel the cracks. Let Vanessa see the chair she could not fill. Let every elder learn the name of the woman they had called only when something needed saving. Emily Harper had carried Blackwood in silence until silence became the only language left to return. Now Adrian Blackwood would ride into the dark with her ring in his pocket, her crown clasp against his palm, and the first honest fear of his reign pressing against his ribs. Not fear that his kingdom might fail. Fear that Emily would be safer without him. Adrian Blackwood rode east without banners. That was the first thing the border villages noticed. No royal escort. No silver horns. No wolves running ahead to announce that the Alpha King had entered the road, and every gate should open before he touched it. Only one black horse, one dark cloak, one man riding through falling snow with a silver ring in his pocket and a spare crown clasp cutting a cold line across his palm. It should have made him look less like a king. It did not. Power followed Adrian even when ceremony did not. But for the first time in his life, power felt useless. The merchant road toward Monroe territory was narrow and half-frozen, lined with black pines and abandoned autumn fields buried beneath snow. Adrian rode through the night and into the gray morning, stopping only when his horse needed water. His wolf paced beneath his skin, restless, angry, confused by the absence of command. Chase. Find. Claim. Bring back. The instincts were old. Royal. Alpha. Wrong. Adrian tightened his hand around the reins until the leather creaked. No. Emily had not been stolen. Emily had left. The difference mattered. It mattered so much that each mile became a punishment. At the first village, a baker remembered her. Soft-looking woman. The man said, wiping flour from his hands. Brown hair. Dark cloak. Paid full price for bread and asked which road flooded after thaw. Adrian went still. Of course she had asked that. Even running away, Emily planned for weather 3 days ahead. Was she alone? The baker studied him carefully. Too carefully. People are often alone before they decide where they are going. Adrian's wolf bristled at the answer. The man did not lower his eyes. Another thing Emily had left behind, perhaps. The courage of ordinary people to speak when the king had arrived without trumpets. Adrian placed a coin on the counter. Which way? The baker looked at the coin, then at him. She asked about Monroe roads. Adrian's jaw tightened. There it was again. Monroe. Not confirmed anymore. Chosen. By midday, snow turned to cold rain. It soaked through Adrian's cloak and darkened the horse's mane. The road dropped toward the eastern borderlands, where Blackwood stone markers grew farther apart and Monroe patrol signs began appearing on trees. Each sign looked like a door closing behind Emily. At the final Blackwood outpost, the captain tried to send riders with him. Adrian refused. My king, Monroe patrols will not like you crossing alone. I am not entering as an army. That may not matter to them. It will matter to me. The captain lowered his eyes, confused but obedient. Adrian almost hated him for it. Obedience had once seemed like order. Now it looked too much like silence. By evening, he reached the border bridge, a narrow stone crossing over the Greywater River, swollen with winter runoff. On the far side, Monroe wolves waited beneath dark green banners, calm and armed. Their leader was a tall man with copper-brown hair and a scar across one cheek. Not Caleb Monroe. A border captain. Good. No, not good. Adrian did not know what he wanted. That was becoming the pattern of losing Emily. The captain stepped forward. Alpha King Blackwood. Adrian dismounted before answering. A small thing. A necessary one. I request passage. Several Monroe wolves exchanged glances. Request. The word tasted unfamiliar. The captain noticed. He gave no sign of satisfaction, which Adrian respected against his will. Purpose. Adrian could have said alliance. Could have said political matter. Could have said nothing and allowed his name to force the bridge open. Instead, he said, Emily Harper. The captain's expression shifted. Not surprise. Recognition. Adrian felt it like a blow. She is here, he said. The captain did not answer. That was answer enough. Adrian stepped forward. The Monroe wolves tightened. His wolf surged. Mine. No, not mine. The correction cut deeper than teeth. Adrian stopped himself. Hands visible. Voice controlled. I will not take her by force. The captain studied him for a long moment. That is good, because she would not come. The words landed exactly where they were meant to. Adrian accepted them because they were true. At last, the captain nodded toward the bridge. You may enter. Unarmed escort to the manor. Your weapons remain here. One of Adrian's oldest instincts recoiled. A king did not surrender weapons at another Alpha's border. A man who had finally understood what he had done to Emily did. Adrian removed his sword, then the dagger at his boot, then the smaller blade hidden beneath his riding coat. The Monroe captain's eyebrows lifted slightly at the third weapon. Adrian said nothing. Neither did he. The road beyond the bridge led through wet fields and winter bear orchards. Monroe territory did not shine like Blackwood. It felt older, quieter. less impressed with itself. At the manor gates, lanterns burned warm against gray rain. Servants moved with purpose. Guards watched without panic. And through the tall window of the Eastern Council room, Adrian saw her. Emily. Not collapsed. Not weeping. Not waiting. She sat at a long table with Caleb Monroe and 3 border elders, her dark cloak folded over the chair behind her, brown hair loose around her face. A ledger lay open before her. One elder spoke. Emily listened. Then she answered, pointing to a line on the parchment. Everyone at the table leaned in. They listened. Adrian stopped walking. The rain ran down his face. For 7 years, Emily had stood behind him. Here, she sat. The difference was so simple it almost broke him. Caleb Monroe looked up first. Their eyes met through the glass. Caleb said something. Emily turned. Adrian had imagined this moment badly. He had imagined shock, tears, anger sharp enough to prove he still mattered. Instead, Emily became still. Only still. Her face did not crumple. Her hand did not fly to her throat. She did not rise as if summoned by the sight of him. She looked at him like a closed door recognizing the hand that once forgot to knock. That was worse than hatred. The Monroe captain opened the door. Warmth spilled into the ring. Conversation ended inside. Adrian entered the council room without weapons, without crown cloak, without the authority that had once made every room rearrange itself around him. Still, the room felt his presence. Everyone did. Emily did not stand. Caleb Monroe did. He was broad-shouldered, fair-skinned, calm in a dark green coat. Younger than Adrian by perhaps 2 years. Not as powerful, not as feared, but he stood beside Emily's chair in a way that made no claim over her. Only respect for the guest at his table. Alpha King Blackwood, Caleb said. Alpha Monroe. Their voices were civil. The air was not. Adrian's gaze moved to Emily. Only then. Not first. He had learned at least that much on the road. Emily. Her name filled the room differently when he said it now. Not as command. Not as habit. As something he had nearly lost the right to speak. Emily looked at him with calm brown eyes. Adrian. No title. The elders noticed. Caleb noticed. Adrian felt the absence of my king like a blade removed from his own hand. Good. Let it be gone. I came to speak with you, he said. Emily's fingers rested on the ledger. Not gripping. Resting. I am in a meeting. The answer struck cleanly. Behind her, one elder looked down to hide something that might have been approval. Adrian deserved that too. Caleb turned slightly toward Emily. We can pause. Emily did not look away from Adrian. No. We are discussing winter grain stores for the river villages. They need an answer before morning. The silence that followed was not awkward. It was instruction. This is what mattered while you were learning I mattered. Adrian bowed his head once. A king bowing to a schedule he did not control. Then I will wait. Emily's expression changed. Barely. Not softened. Measured. You are free to do that. Free. The words sounded different from her. Adrian stepped back to the wall. Not the head of the table. Not beside her chair. The wall. For the next hour, he watched Emily Harper work in a room that valued her before she bled herself invisible. She corrected grain estimates. Asked after sick children in the southern villages. Found a flaw in a supply contract within 3 minutes. Argued gently with Caleb Monroe and won because she had the numbers and he had the sense to listen. No one called her useful. No one covered her name with flowers. When the meeting ended, the elders thanked her directly. One by one, Emily accepted with a quiet nod, as if learning not to flinch from gratitude. Adrian watched that too. Every small respect became part of his punishment. At last, the room emptied. Caleb paused at the door. Lady Harper, I will be nearby. Emily nodded. Thank you. Adrian heard what was not in the words. No fear. No dependence. Only choice. Caleb left. The door closed. For the first time since the moon banquet, Adrian and Emily stood in the same room without a kingdom between them. He reached into his coat. Slowly, Emily's eyes dropped to his hand. He stopped, then placed the lunar ring on the table instead of holding it out. Distance. Choice. Too late, perhaps. But real. You left this, he said. Emily looked at the ring. Then at him. No, she said. I returned it. The correction landed softly. Devastatingly. Adrian swallowed. Rain tapped against the windows behind him. I know, he said. And for the first time, he did. Emily Harper looked at the lunar ring for a long time. Not because she wanted it back. Because once she had. That was the cruel thing about old dreams. They did not always die when the heart did. Sometimes they remained as objects. Silver moonstone. Blackwood crest. Thin band of royal gold. A circle small enough to fit on one finger and large enough to excuse 7 years of silence. Adrian Blackwood stood across the table, rain dark on his cloak, face pale beneath the controlled mask of a king trying, perhaps for the first time, not to command what he feared losing. Emily almost pitied him. Almost. Then she remembered the flowers over her name. The chair. Vanessa beside the throne. His voice in the corridor. You embarrassed Vanessa. The pity cooled. You should take it back, she said. Adrian's jaw tightened. Not anger. Pain. Good. Pain was not always injustice. Sometimes it was only truth finally reaching the body. I did not come to force it onto your hand, he said. No, Emily answered. You came because I took it off. The room went silent. Outside, rain traced thin lines down the glass. Beyond the windows, Monroe lanterns glowed warmly through the gray evening. Somewhere in the manor, voices moved with ordinary purpose. Grain stores, winter roads, river villages. Life continuing without needing Emily to disappear inside it. Adrian looked down at the ring. I came because I was wrong. The words were simple, too simple for what they carried. Emily waited. She had waited for years. She could wait through one apology without helping him perform it. Adrian seemed to understand. Or tried to. He did not step closer. I was wrong about Vanessa, he said. Emily's mouth almost curved. That was where he chose to begin. Of course. No, she said softly. You were wrong about me. The correction struck him harder than accusation. His eyes lifted. Emily kept her hands folded on the table, steady and visible. Vanessa was never the wound, Adrian. She was only the mirror you finally held up in public. His breath moved once. Sharp. She continued before softness could betray her. You could have chosen her years ago and hurt me less if you had been honest. But you kept me near. You let me fix the clasp, the reports, the council, the wolf, the kingdom. You let me love you because it made your life easier. Adrian closed his eyes. Only for a second. When he opened them, the king was still there. But less protected. I know. No, Emily said. You are learning. The honesty was not cruel. It was necessary. He accepted it in silence. That mattered. Not enough to change the ending, but enough to keep her from hating him. Adrian reached into his coat again, slower this time, and placed the spare crown clasp beside the ring. The silver wolf head caught the candlelight. Perfectly polished, because her hands had left it that way. I found this on your desk. I left it there. I know. Do you? His fingers rested near the clasp, not touching it now. You were not leaving a message. You were returning the work. Emily looked at him then. Really looked. For the first time since he arrived. The answer was not perfect, but it was close enough to hurt. Yes. Adrian's throat shifted. The palace is falling apart without you. There it is. His face tightened. Emily leaned back, calm and tired. The first honest reason. No, his voice lowered. Not the only one. She said nothing. He looked toward the window, as if choosing each word cost him something he should have paid years ago. I missed the quiet before council when you would correct a line and pretend not to notice I was watching. Emily's chest tightened despite herself. He had watched. No, not enough. Watching without valuing was only another kind of hunger. I miss your voice outside my door when my wolf was near breaking. I miss the way you knew which elder lied before he finished speaking. I miss the tea I complained about and drank anyway. I miss stop. He stopped. Immediately. That almost undid her more than the words. Emily breathed slowly. You do not get to make my absence romantic because it finally became painful to you. Adrian's face went still. Then he nodded once. You are right. The room changed around that. Not healed. Never that quickly, but quieter. Emily stood and walked to the window. Monroe territory lay beyond the rain, unfamiliar and unafraid of her presence. Tomorrow, she would sit in another meeting. Caleb would ask her opinion. The elders would argue with her and listen when she answered. No one here loved her. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. But no one had mistaken her usefulness for ownership. That was enough. Adrian's reflection appeared in the glass behind her, several steps away. Still respecting the distance. Too late. But still. I came to ask you to come home, he said. Emily closed her eyes. There it was. The sentence every lonely version of herself had once dreamed of hearing. Come home. Not as command. Not as duty. Almost as plea. The old Emily would have turned so quickly. Would have forgiven him before he finished speaking. Would have built another cathedral from the rubble because hope, when starved, mistook crumbs for feasts. But the woman standing at the Monroe window had left before dawn with no letter and no promise to be found. She opened her eyes. "I did come home," she said. Adrian did not answer. Emily turned. "Every day, Adrian. Every council. Every fever. Every treaty. Every night I stood behind you while you looked through me. I came home again and again." His face lost color. "You were the one," she said quietly, "who never opened the door." The words landed. Fully. She saw the moment he received them, not as poetry, not as blame, but as memory rearranging itself into truth. Adrian looked down. For once, the Alpha King had no command ready. No explanation. No defense. Only the ruins of certainty. "I am sorry," he said. Emily believed him. That was the saddest part. She believed he meant it now. She also understood that meaning it now did not return the years. "I know," she said. He looked up too quickly, as if kindness might be a path. She closed it gently. "I forgive the apology. I do not return with it." His hand closed once at his side. Only once. His wolf, perhaps. His pride. His grief. He mastered all three. Good. At least he had learned something before arriving. "Is it Monroe?" he asked. Emily's eyes cooled. Adrian heard himself too late. He lowered his head. "No. I am sorry. That was not fair." "No," she said. "It was not." She walked back to the table and picked up the lunar ring. For one breath, Adrian's body went still. She did not put it on. She placed it in his palm. He accepted it as if it burned. Then she picked up the crown clasp. This she kept. Adrian noticed. A faint confusion crossed his face. Emily looked at the silver wolf head resting in her hand. "I fixed this for years." "Yes. I am keeping it." His throat moved. "Why?" "So I remember I know how to repair things." The answer was soft. Then she met his eyes. "But not everything should be repaired." Adrian flinched. "There. The final cut. Clean. Necessary." He took one step forward without thinking. Only one. Emily stepped back. Not frightened. Certain. Adrian stopped at once. Her voice came low. "You lost the right to touch me." The room held the sentence like a verdict. Adrian closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. Not dramatically. Not beautifully. Just wet. A man realizing power had no place to stand. "Yes," he said. "That was all. Yes." No argument. No wounded pride. No demand that his restraint be praised. For the first time, Adrian Blackwood loved her in the only way still available to him. He did not reach again. Emily looked toward the door. Caleb Monroe stood beyond the glass panel in the hall, not entering, not listening openly, but near enough if she wanted witness. He had kept his promise. Nearby, not claiming. Adrian saw him. This time, he said nothing. That mattered too. Emily took her dark cloak from the chair. "The winter grain routes need work before morning," she said. Adrian almost smiled. Almost broke. "You are still solving kingdoms." "No," Emily said. "I am choosing where my work is honored." He bowed his head, not as king to subject, as a man accepting the boundary of the woman he had arrived too late to keep. Emily walked to the door. Before opening it, she turned once more. "You should go back, Adrian. Blackwood needs a king who can read his own reports." A small sound left him. Not laughter. Not quite pain. Emily. She waited. He looked at her as if trying to memorize the person he had never studied while she was his to see. "Will I ever speak to you again?" The question was honest enough to deserve an honest answer. "I do not know." He nodded. Because that, too, was her right. Emily opened the door. Caleb stepped back at once, giving her space. She passed him without taking his arm. He did not offer it. Good. She did not need another man's hand to prove she had survived the first. Behind her, Adrian remained in the room with the Luna ring in his palm and the empty place where her forgiveness did not become return. Emily walked down the Monroe corridor toward the council chamber, the spare crown clasp tucked safely into her pocket. Rain softened against the windows. The night smelled of wet stone, ink, bread, and work that would wait for her because she had chosen it, not because she was trapped inside it. For years, she had loved the Alpha King alone. Then she left, and when he finally chased her, he found not a woman waiting to be reclaimed, but one who had learned to walk without turning every footstep into an apology. At the end of the corridor, the Monroe elders looked up as she entered. Adrian Blackwood returned to his kingdom with Emily Harper's ring in his pocket and no woman beside him. The road back felt longer. Not because of weather. Not because Monroe territory watched him with careful eyes until he crossed the border bridge. Because every mile west carried him toward the life she had left behind, And for the first time, Adrian understood that returning to a palace was not the same as coming home. Blackwood Keep rose from the winter hills near midnight. Dark towers, silver banners, windows burning with anxious light. The kingdom had not slept. Of course it had not. It had been waiting for him to bring back the woman who made waiting unnecessary. Marcus Hale met him in the outer courtyard, cloak thrown hastily over council clothes. His gaze moved once to the empty saddle beside Adrian, then to Adrian's face. He did not ask. That was mercy or punishment. Adrian dismounted slowly. "She is not coming," he said. The words entered the courtyard without drama. Still, men went quiet. A stable boy lowered his eyes. A guard near the archway swallowed. Somewhere above, a window curtain shifted as someone watching understood the shape of failure before the council did. Marcus's expression did not change, but something behind it settled. "She told you." "Yes." Clearly. Adrian almost smiled. Almost. Emily would have approved the precision. "Yes," he said. Clearly. Marcus nodded once. "Then we should not send anyone else." The Alpha and Adrian stirred. Insulted. A familiar instinct lifted its head. Send riders. Send summons. Send law after what the heart failed to hold. He crushed it so hard his hand shook. "No," Adrian said. "We do not." Marcus saw the tremor. Said nothing. Good man. Cruel man. Loyal man. Adrian walked toward the council wing instead of his chambers. Sleep felt obscene. Comfort worse. The palace corridors glowed with late lanterns, their polished floors reflecting a man who looked like a king and felt like a lesson arriving after the student had already left. At Emily's desk, everything remained as she had left it. Too neat. Too final. The empty space where the ring had rested looked louder than the ring itself. Adrian placed it back there. Not because it belonged to the desk. Because it no longer belonged to him either. Marcus stood in the doorway. "My king." "She returned it," Adrian said. "I only carried it back." His own voice sounded strange. Less certain. More honest. He took out the folded reports Emily had completed before leaving. The Westbrook clauses. The healer notes. The pension orders. He had read them twice on the road and understood only half without shame turning the words into fog. Now he read them again. Slower. Marcus waited. At last, Adrian looked up. "Bring the clerks." "It is past midnight." "Yes." Marcus did not argue. Within 20 minutes, the administrative wing filled with frightened clerks, exhausted scribes, 2 healers, and 1 elder who arrived offended in a night robe and became silent when Adrian looked at him. The Alpha King stood at Emily's desk. Not behind his throne. Not above them. There, where the work had lived. "We begin with the Moonroot shipment," he said. A clerk blinked. "Lady Harper already marked. I know. Read her note aloud." The clerk hesitated. Adrian's jaw tightened. Not in anger. In discipline. "Read it." The note filled the room in Emily's voice without Emily being there. "Southern Moonroot shipment delayed by your approval. Use village reserve or healers will lack medicine before second bell. Your approval." The words cut exactly as they had before. This time, Adrian did not look away. "Send riders to the village reserve," he said. "Pay double. Replace the stock before week's end. My approval caused the shortage. My treasury repairs it." Silence. Then movement. Fast. Almost relieved. Next came Westbrook. Then Ironvale. Then the pensions. At each mistake, someone began to say, "Lady Harper usually," and each time, Adrian stopped them. "Lady Harper is not here to carry what we refuse to learn." By dawn, the administrative wing looked less like ruin and more like a battlefield after the first honest inventory. No victory, but names attached to wounds. Adrian leaned over the desk, exhausted, crown clasp crooked again because his hands still did not know the small hinge well enough. No one fixed it. This time, he did not ask. Vanessa arrived after sunrise. She wore pale blue, not silver. A careful choice. Her eyes moved from the clerks to the open reports, then to the lunar ring resting on the desk. She refused. The room went still. Adrian looked at her. Vanessa seemed younger in morning light. Less dangerous. More human. Perhaps she had never been the villain Emily's pain could have made her. Perhaps she had only accepted a place offered by a man too careless to admit someone else had been standing there bleeding. "Yes," Adrian said. Vanessa's mouth tightened. "I did not know," she said. Adrian believed her. That did not make her innocent. Ignorance was not always guiltless when it benefited from someone else's silence. "No," he said. "But you did not ask." Color touched her cheeks. "No one told me." That was the problem in this palace, Adrian said quietly. Everyone waited for Emily to know. Vanessa looked down at the ring. For once, her beauty did not help her. What happens now? Adrian looked around the administrative wing. At clerks learning systems they should have learned years ago. At healers copying supply notes. At Marcus standing near the map with the face of a man who had watched a disaster become policy too late. At noon, Adrian said, "You return to the southern estate." Vanessa's head lifted sharply. "You are sending me away? I am ending the performance." Her eyes shone. "My father will be insulted." "Yes. The southern road will be negotiated by treaty, not by placing you in a chair you were never prepared to fill." The words were not cruel. That almost made them worse. Vanessa swallowed. "And Lady Harper?" Adrian looked at the ring again. Lady Harper is where she chose to be. Saying it hurt. It also did not kill him. That felt important. By noon, the palace knew. Not all of it. Enough. Emily Harper had not returned. Vanessa Reed was leaving. The Alpha King had spent the night reading reports at Emily's desk and correcting his own signatures. Rumors moved through corridors like wind under doors. Some sounded sympathetic. Some frightened. Some quietly satisfied. Servants carried them carefully. Elders resented them openly. Clerks repeated Emily's name with a different weight now. Not as rescue. As standard. The first council without her full guidance began after sunset. Adrian entered with no Vanessa at his side and no empty chair hidden by flowers. Emily's chair remained where it had always been. Empty. Visible. No lilies. No decoration. No lie. An elder cleared his throat. "Should we remove Lady Harper's seat, my king?" Adrian stopped beside the chair. His hand rested briefly on the back. The wood was smooth. Familiar. Unforgiving. No, the elder shifted. "But if she is no longer Luna Regent, she is not an absence to be tidied away." The room fell silent. Adrian looked over the council. Men who had watched Emily work. Men who had let her. Men who now wanted the discomfort removed before it taught them anything expensive. "The chair remains until the council learns what it failed to see," Adrian said. No one argued. Not yet. They would. Tomorrow, perhaps. Next week. Power did not reform itself because regret finally learned grammar. But tonight, the chair stayed. The meeting was ugly. Slow. Embarrassing. Adrian had to ask clerks for figures Emily would have known without looking. Marcus corrected him twice. A Northern Alpha muttered that Blackwood looked weaker without Lady Harper. Adrian heard him. So did everyone. Once, that would have been punished. Tonight, Adrian only said, "Yes." The Northern Alpha looked up, startled. Adrian met his gaze. "It does." The truth moved through the room like a blade laid flat on a table. No blood. Only warning. At the end of the council, Marcus remained behind. The chamber emptied around them. Emily's chair sat between silence and firelight. Marcus spoke first. That was difficult. Adrian let out a humorless breath. That was deserved. Both can be true. Adrian looked at him. The phrase sounded like something Emily would have said if she had still been there to give language to pain without making it dramatic. His chest tightened. "Do you think she is safe?" he asked. Marcus answered carefully. "I think she is safer where her no is heard." Adrian closed his eyes. Accepted the wound. When he opened them, the fire had burned lower. The throne room looked larger than it had in the morning. Not because Emily was missing now. Because he had finally stopped expecting the room to shrink enough to hide what her absence revealed. In Monroe territory, she would sit at a table. Her work would be named. Her chair would not be covered. Adrian hated that another Alpha's land had given her what his crown had withheld. He hated more that she had needed to leave to receive it. That night, Adrian returned to his private chamber alone. The crown clasp at his throat came loose when he removed the cloak. The hinge caught. He held it for a long moment, remembering Emily's hands. Small, steady, bleeding in ways he had never seen. Then he sat before the mirror and fixed the clasp himself. It took 7 tries. On the 8th, it held. Crooked, but held. Adrian looked at his reflection. A king without the woman who had made him seem better than he was. A man learning too late that regret was not a door back. Only a light over the damage. He placed Emily's lunar ring in a small wooden box and left the box open on the desk. Not hidden. Not displayed. Witnessed. Outside, the palace settled uneasily into a Monroe territory did not ask Emily Harper to become irreplaceable. That was why she began to breathe there. Not all at once. Never that easily. Breath returned in pieces. The first piece came the morning after Adrian left. when no servant knocked before dawn to tell her 3 packs were threatening insult over seating. The second came when Caleb Monroe entered the council room with a stack of grain ledgers and placed them in the center of the table, not beside her chair like offerings to a shrine. "Look when you are ready," he said. Then he left. No order. No expectation dressed as trust. No silent assumption that Emily would fix it before anyone else had to understand the problem. She sat alone with the ledgers for a long moment, then laughed once. Small, disbelieving. It sounded strange in the room, like a cup placed where a blade had been expected. By noon, she had marked 3 errors in the winter grain estimates, 2 repeated names on the widow pension list, and 1 dangerous clause in a river toll agreement that would have given the southern merchants too much leverage by spring. She did not hide the notes. She did not rewrite the entire document herself. Instead, when the Monroe elders gathered, she placed the marked pages on the table. "There are mistakes here," she said. One elder leaned forward. "Can you correct them?" Emily almost answered yes. Of course she could. The word had lived inside her for years, automatic and obedient. "Yes, I will fix it. I will stay late. I will make sure no one sees how badly this nearly broke." But then she saw Adrian's throne room in memory. The empty chair. The reports. Her own handwriting carrying a kingdom that had never learned the weight of its dependence. So she folded her hands. "I can show you where they are," she said. "You should correct them." The room went quiet. Not offended. Thinking. Caleb, seated at the far end, watched her with careful eyes. Not proud. Not possessive. Listening. An older councilman named Thomas Reed frowned at the ledger. "That will take longer." "Yes," Emily said. He looked up. "You are very direct. I am tired of being efficient for men who confuse speed with competence." Silence. Then Caleb Monroe laughed. Not loudly. Not mockingly. A low sound of recognition that made 2 elders glance at him, startled. Emily looked at him. He lifted both hands slightly. "She is right," Thomas grumbled. But he picked up the quill. That afternoon, the Monroe Council worked slowly. Badly at first. They asked too many questions. Repeated 2 mistakes. Argued over a toll clause Emily could have rewritten in 3 minutes if left alone with ink and frustration. She did not take the quill from them. Her fingers ached with the desire. Still, she did not. Healing, she discovered, was not always rest. Sometimes healing was watching others struggle with the work they had once praised you for doing silently and refusing to rescue them from the lesson. By evening, the corrected grain plan was clumsy but sound. Thomas looked exhausted. "So this is what you did every week at Blackwood?" Emily looked at the ink stains on his fingers. "No," she said. "At Blackwood, I did this before anyone knew there had been a problem." The elders went still. Caleb's face darkened slightly. Not at her. For her. Emily saw it and looked away. She did not need another man's anger to validate what had happened. She was learning that too. Later, while the Manor settled into dinner, Caleb found her in the East Library. He stopped at the doorway and knocked on the open frame. Emily appreciated that, more than she wanted to. "May I come in?" She looked up from the river map. "You may." He entered and remained near the table, not too close. Caleb Monroe was not like Adrian. That was obvious in ways that mattered and ways that did not. He was fair-haired instead of dark, less severe in the face, warmer in the eyes. He carried authority with less polish, less hunger for a room to bend around him. But he was still an alpha, still powerful, still accustomed to people making space when he entered. Emily did not forget that. She would not confuse difference with safety too quickly. "I owe you thanks," Caleb said. "You owe your council patience." His mouth curved. That too. Emily returned to the map. He did not leave. She looked back up. His expression had sobered. "Blackwood sent a formal notice this morning," he said. "No summons. No demand. Only confirmation that you are not to be retrieved by force." Emily's hand stilled on the parchment. For a moment, she heard Adrian's voice in the Monroe Council room. "I did not come to force it onto your hand." Then his silence when she said he had lost the right to touch her. Something in her chest tightened. Not longing. Not exactly. Grief had many rooms. Some had doors she had not opened yet. "What else did it say?" she asked. "Nothing personal." "Good." Caleb watched her carefully. "Is it?" Emily folded the map edge down. "Yes." Personal words would have been harder. An apology in ink. A plea. A beautiful sentence designed too late. Adrian had finally understood enough not to send one. That mattered. It did not change her decision. But it mattered. Caleb nodded. "Monroe protection stands as long as you want it." Emily's eyes lifted. There it was. As long as you want it. A phrase so simple it might have frightened her a month ago. It still did. Only less. And if I stop wanting it? Then we discuss safe passage. Discuss. If you are willing. Emily studied him. There was no offense in his face. No wounded pride waiting beneath kindness. No expectation that gratitude would ripen into belonging. She respected that. Trust was farther away. But respect had become a door she could stand near without opening yet. I may not stay, she said. I assumed that. Did you? You left a king. I would be foolish to think you came here looking for another cage with better curtains. Emily stared at him. Then, despite herself, she smiled. Not much. Enough. Caleb saw it. Did not comment. Wise man. The smile faded on its own, but not painfully. After he left, Emily sat alone in the library with the darkening windows and the map between her hands. Beyond the glass, Monroe territory folded into rain and winter fields. Not home. Not yet. Perhaps never. But not a cage. The next week passed in uneven steps. Some mornings, she woke with panic, convinced she had overslept and Adrian's counsel was waiting. Some evenings, she reached for the lunar ring that was no longer there and felt only bare skin. Once, she heard a man laugh in the courtyard with a voice too close to Adrian's and had to stand alone in the pantry until her breath returned. No one mocked her. No one forced an explanation. No one said she should be over it because she had chosen to leave. Choice did not erase the wound. It only meant the wound was finally allowed to heal in air instead of under royal gloves. On the 10th day, a messenger from a river village arrived with a crate of apples and a folded note addressed to Lady Emily Harper. Lady, not Luna Regent, not Blackwood's woman. Emily opened it slowly. Thank you for correcting the grain numbers before winter deepened. My children will eat because someone counted us correctly. No signature she recognized. Only a thumbprint in blue ink. Emily read it twice. Then once more. The words blurred at the edges. She did not cry loudly. She never had. But one tear slipped down her cheek and landed on the table beside the note. She let it. That was new too. Caleb was not there. Adrian was not there. No kingdom watched. No one needed the tear to mean forgiveness, weakness, romance, or collapse. It was only a tear. Hers. That evening, Emily walked to the eastern balcony with the note folded in her pocket and the spare crown clasp in her palm. The clasp no longer felt like Adrian. Not entirely. It felt like years of her own hands. Repairing, holding, enduring. She closed her fingers around it and looked toward the west, where Blackwood lay beyond rain-dark hills. For 7 years, she had loved a man who noticed her absence before he understood her presence. That truth still hurt, but it no longer owned the whole sky. Behind her, the Monroe Manor glowed with lamplight. Ahead, winter fields waited for spring planting. Somewhere between the two, Emily Harper stood without a ring, without a title, without a man's claim shaping the room around her. A person could be lonely and free at the same time. She was beginning to learn both. When Caleb's footsteps sounded near the balcony entrance, he stopped before entering. May I? Emily did not turn immediately. She looked once more toward the west, then tucked the crown clasp into her pocket. Yes, she said. Caleb stepped beside her, leaving a careful space between their shoulders. Neither spoke for a while. The silence did not ask her to fill it. That was why she stayed. Below, the river road curved through the dark, open in both directions. For the first time, Emily did not imagine herself running down it before dawn. She imagined walking. Someday. By choice. And that made all the difference. By the 3rd week, Blackwood stopped sounding like a wound every time someone said its name. That did not mean Emily Harper had healed. Healing was not a door she crossed once. It was a corridor. Some days she walked forward. Some days she stood still with one hand on the wall, breathing through memories that arrived without permission. Adrian's voice in the corridor. Vanessa's silver gown. The flowers over her place marker. The empty ache on her finger where the lunar ring had rested too long. But the memories no longer commanded the room. That was new. Monroe territory gave her work, but not worship. Emily preferred that. The council argued with her. Thomas Reed still frowned whenever she corrected his arithmetic. The river merchants tried twice to hide extra toll clauses under polite language, and Emily cut both apart with such calm precision that Caleb Monroe looked down at his papers to hide a smile. No one called her useful. They called her accurate, difficult, sharp, necessary. Those words had edges, but they did not feel like chains. One gray afternoon, While winter rain tapped against the council windows, a Blackwood messenger arrived with a sealed report. The room quieted when the black wax appeared. Emily felt every I try not to turn toward her. That almost amused her. Almost. Caleb accepted the letter, checked the seal, then looked at Emily from across the table. It concerns the Southern Road. Then open it. His gaze held hers for one breath longer. Are you sure? Emily folded her hands. Yes. The seal broke cleanly. Not a summons. Not an apology. A trade proposal. Written in Adrian's formal hand, corrected in 3 places by Marcus, and painfully organized by someone who had clearly spent too long trying to imitate Emily's old system. She recognized the attempt immediately. Colored tabs. Numbered clauses. Margin notes. Too many margin notes. Emily stared at the pages. A strange emotion moved through her. Not longing. Not satisfaction. Something quieter. The grief of seeing someone finally learn a language after the conversation had ended. Thomas leaned forward. Is it acceptable? Emily read the first page again. Then the second. Adrian had offered fair winter grazing rights to Westbrook. He had removed the clause that would have trapped river villages under double tariffs. He had included compensation for the Moonroot shipment his own delay had damaged. No performance. No plea hidden between lines. Only better work. Late. But better. Emily set the report down. It is a reasonable proposal. Caleb's expression did not change, but the room felt the importance of the words. And politically? Thomas asked. Politically, Blackwood is trying to stabilize without pretending nothing happened. An elder murmured. Can they? Emily looked at the black seal resting beside the candle. Her answer came slowly. That depends on whether they keep doing the work after people stop watching. The room accepted that. No one asked if she wanted to go back. That mattered. After council, Emily carried the report to the East Library and read it once more in private. Not because she needed to, because part of her still wanted proof that Adrian's regret had not become another form of performance. The pages did not smell like him. Only ink and wax. Good. She was putting the report away when Caleb knocked on the open doorframe. May I enter? You ask that every time. Yes. Do you expect the answer to change? Possibly. Emily looked at him. He did not smile. That made the answer better. You may enter. Caleb stepped inside and remained beside the nearest shelf. Blackwood has requested a spring border council. Emily closed the folder. With Monroe? With Monroe, he said. And, if you are willing, with you present as independent advisor. Independent. The word landed softly, then opened under her ribs. Emily looked toward the rain-streaked window. A month ago, every title attached to her had belonged to someone else's structure. Lunar Regent. Blackwood's quiet hand. Adrian's loyal shadow. The woman beside the throne no one named until she was gone. Independent advisor. Not romantic. Not grand. Hers. What did you say, she asked. I said I would ask you. And if I refuse? Then Monroe attends without you. And if I attend? Then you sit where you choose. Emily almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because choice still arrived dressed in simple sentences and found places inside her that had once expected chains. She walked to the window. The river road below was wet and open. Wagons moved slowly through rain. A child splashed in a puddle until his mother pulled him away. Ordinary life, stubborn and unpolished. Adrian will be there. Yes. He may think my presence means something it does not. Caleb's voice stayed even. Then you can correct him. Emily turned. The answer should not have warmed her. It did. Not because Caleb offered protection. Because he trusted her to speak. There is another matter, Caleb said. Emily waited. He reached into his coat and placed a small envelope on the table. No seal. Only her name. Emily Harper. Her hand went still. From Blackwood? She asked. From Marcus Hale. That changed the air differently. Emily picked it up. The letter was short. Lady Harper, the Moonroot reserves are restored. The widow pensions are signed. The empty chair remains. He has not covered it. He has not touched the reports without reading them first. I thought you deserved facts, not pleas. Marcus. Emily read it twice. Then sat down slowly. The empty chair remains. Not decorated. Not erased. Not filled. A witness. Her throat tightened. Caleb looked toward the shelves, giving her the privacy of not being watched too closely. She appreciated that more than words. Does it hurt? He asked quietly. Yes. Do you want it not to? Emily thought about lying, then did not. Not entirely. Caleb nodded as if that made sense. Maybe it did. Some pain was not meant to vanish quickly. Some pain proved that what happened mattered. that she had mattered, even when she had not been treated as if she did. Emily folded Marcus's letter carefully and placed it beside the Blackwood report. Evidence. Different kinds. Adrian learning. Marcus witnessing. Monroe waiting. Herself choosing. The room felt very quiet. Not empty. Caleb spoke again, softer this time. Spring Council is 6 weeks away. You do not need to decide today. Emily looked at him. Once, delay would have meant fear. Now it felt like space. I know. He gave a faint nod and turned to leave. Caleb. He stopped. Emily's fingers rested on Marcus's letter. Thank you for not making my healing into something you are owed. His expression changed. Not pride. Not triumph. Something more careful. You are not a debt to be collected. The words entered the library and stayed there. Emily looked down before he could see too much on her face. Caleb left without asking for more. That evening, Emily returned to the balcony alone. The rain had stopped. Clouds moved low over the fields, silver at the edges where the moon pressed through. She held 3 things in her hands now: the spare crown clasp, Marcus's letter, and the Blackwood trade proposal. Past, witness, future. None of them told her what to choose. That was their mercy. She placed the proposal on the balcony rail and read the first clause again. Fair, careful, revised. The work of a man learning to read before commanding. Too late for love, perhaps. Not too late for responsibility. That distinction mattered. Emily touched the crown clasp in her pocket. She no longer kept it because of Adrian. She kept it because it reminded her that repair was a skill, not a sentence. A kingdom could be repaired. A treaty could be repaired. Trust, sometimes, could be rebuilt into something smaller and more honest than before. But a woman was not broken simply because she refused to return to the place that had damaged her. That was what she understood now. A month ago, leaving had felt like the end of a life. Tonight, it felt like the beginning of authorship. She looked west. Blackwood lay beyond the dark hills, carrying its empty chair and crooked lessons. She looked east. Monroe fields waited for spring grain routes, river contracts, and councils that asked before assuming. Then she looked down at her bare hand. No ring, no chain, no title heavy enough to decide for her. When Caleb's footsteps sounded behind her, he stopped at the balcony threshold as always. May I? Emily did not answer immediately. She let the silence belong to her first. Then she turned, not smiling fully, but no longer afraid of the softness beginning at the edges of her mouth. Yes, she said. You may. He stepped beside her, leaving space. Below them, the road shone wet beneath moonlight, open in both directions. Emily held Marcus's letter against her chest and breathed without counting how long the peace would last. Spring Council was 6 weeks away. Adrian would be there. Her old chair would still be empty. The world would ask again what place Emily Harper intended to take. This time, she would not wait for any man to answer first. Spring Council arrived beneath a sky too clear to be kind. Emily Harper saw Blackwood banners before she saw Adrian. They stood on the western ridge outside Monroe Hall, silver against dark pine, moving slowly in the morning wind. Not as many as before. No parade. No royal display wide enough to make the road feel owned. Just a formal delegation, measured and restrained. Someone had learned restraint. Perhaps Marcus. Perhaps Adrian. Perhaps Loss. Emily stood at the council window with the spare crown clasp in her pocket and no ring on her hand. Behind her, Monroe elders arranged reports across the long oak table. Caleb Monroe spoke quietly with Thomas Reed near the hearth, his green coat simple, his expression calm. He had asked her that morning if she wanted another room, another seat, another hour. She had said no, not because she was fearless, because fear no longer deserved to choose the furniture. Her chair waited at the table, not beside Caleb, not below him, not hidden behind flowers. At the table, that was enough. The doors opened at 9th bell. Marcus entered first. His eyes found Emily, and for one brief second, the beta's controlled face softened with relief so honest she had to look away before it touched something still healing. Then Adrian Blackwood stepped into the room. He wore black, as always, but no crown cloak, no ceremonial silver, only a dark council coat, neatly fastened with a plain clasp that was not the one she had kept. His face looked thinner than it had 2 months ago. Still handsome, still severe, still powerful enough to change the air, but not untouched. His gaze moved to Emily. Stopped. He did not say her name across the room, did not make the moment his. He bowed his head once. Small, public, respectful. Emily returned the nod. Nothing more. The room breathed again. That was how she knew everyone had been holding it. Caleb opened the council. No drama. No accusation. Winter grain. Southern road tariffs. Border patrol costs. Moonroot reserves. The ordinary anatomy of kingdoms trying not to starve the people who lived beneath their banners. Emily listened, then spoke when the third clause came dangerously close to repeating an old Blackwood mistake. The toll increase cannot be tied to spring flooding, she said. The Blackwood elder across from her frowned. The flooding raises transport costs. For 2 weeks, Emily replied. This clause permits 6 months. The elder's mouth tightened. That is standard language. It is predatory language wearing standard clothing. Silence. Then Marcus coughed once into his fist. Caleb looked down at the map. Adrian looked at the clause. Really looked. Then he took the quill, crossed out the line, and said, Lady Harper is correct. Lady Harper. Not Emily. Not mine. Not come home. The title landed cleanly. Useful because it did not ache. Emily inclined her head. Thank you. The council continued. For 3 hours, Adrian did not interrupt her once. Not even when she corrected Blackwood numbers. Not even when she sided with Monroe on river storage. Not even when a Northern alpha muttered that Blackwood seemed fond of surrendering authority to former household women. The room froze. Emily did not. She looked at the man. Slowly. Former household women are often the reason powerful men survive their own paperwork. Someone made a sound. Maybe Thomas. Maybe Marcus. The Northern alpha flushed. Adrian's voice came cold from the opposite side of the table. You will apologize to Lady Harper before you speak again. The man stiffened. My king. No, Adrian said. You will apologize because she is owed respect, not because I ordered it. That difference settled into the room. Important. Late. But important. The alpha turned to Emily. His apology was stiff. It was still spoken. Emily accepted with one nod and returned to the clause. She did not need Adrian to protect her from every insult. But watching him refuse to benefit from one felt like a correction history could not undo, only record. At midday, council recessed. People moved toward the adjoining hall for food and bitter spring wine. Emily stayed behind to organize the signed drafts, because some habits remained useful when chosen. Adrian remained too. Not close. Several steps away. The distance was familiar now. Less dangerous. Marcus paused at the door, glanced between them, then left. Caleb did the same after asking with his eyes. Emily gave the smallest nod. The door closed. Sunlight lay across the table, bright on ink, wax, and bare wood. Adrian spoke first. You look well. Emily almost smiled. Almost. That is a dangerous opening. His mouth moved faintly. I know. Silence. Not empty. Only careful. He looked at the signed documents. The spring council would have failed without you. No, she said. It would have been slower. He accepted the correction. Then it would have been slower. That mattered. A little. He reached into his coat, then stopped and placed both hands visibly on the chair before him. Emily saw the restraint. You may take out whatever it is, she said. Only then did he remove a small folded paper. I brought this because Marcus said facts are kinder than pleas. Marcus has always been wiser than either of us. Yes. The answer came without pride. He set the paper on the table, close enough for her to take if she chose. Emily unfolded it. A list. Moonroot reserves restored. Widow pensions moved to permanent annual approval. Seating protocols transferred to council clerks. 3 junior advisors appointed. Vanessa Reed's family treaty renegotiated without marriage implication. Emily's chair in Blackwood Council chamber preserved, currently empty, unassigned. Emily read the last line twice, then placed the paper down. You are building systems. I am trying to stop needing one woman to bleed quietly for a kingdom. Her throat tightened, not because she wanted to return, because the wound had finally been named correctly. Bleed quietly. Yes, that was what she had done. She looked toward the window until the feeling steadied. Good, she said. The word was small. It was all she could give. Adrian received it as if it were more than enough. For a moment, she almost saw the man from 7 years ago. Rain-soaked. Wrong. Laughing when she told him he was not terrifying when mistaken. Then he was gone, replaced by the man who had hurt her, lost her, chased her, and arrived too late with better grammar for regret. Both were true. That was the problem. That was also the peace. I will not ask you to come back, Adrian said. Emily looked at him. His eyes were steady. Painful. Honest. I wanted to, he admitted. For weeks. Every morning. Every council. Every time I saw the chair. And now. Now I understand that wanting is not permission. The words moved through her slowly. Late, but real. Emily breathed out. Thank you. Adrian's face shifted. The thanks hurt him. Perhaps because he knew it was not forgiveness. Only recognition. He nodded. There is something else, he said. Emily waited. Vanessa wrote to me last week. She is engaged to a southern lord who reads his own contracts. This time, Emily did smile. Small. Unexpected. Adrian saw it and looked down quickly, as if he had no right to watch too long. Wise. I hope she is happier there, Emily said. I hope she asks more questions. That too. The silence after that was softer. Not intimate. Not theirs. Just human. Then Adrian's gaze moved to her hand. Bare. No ring. No hesitation there now. I am sorry, he said. Emily did not look away. I know. I loved what you gave me before I learned to love who gave it. The sentence landed deep. Careful. Maybe the truest thing he had ever said to her. Emily let it hurt. Then let it pass. I loved who I thought you could be, she said. Before I accepted who you chose to be with me. He closed his eyes. Only for a moment. When he opened them, there was no defense left. I deserved that. It was not punishment. No, he said. It was truth. The door opened softly. Caleb stood there, not entering. Council reconvenes in 5 minutes. Emily nodded. Thank you. Caleb's eyes moved once to Adrian, then back to her. No possessiveness. No challenge. Only a question. Are you all right? Emily answered with a steady look. Yes. Caleb stepped away. Adrian saw the exchange. This time, no jealousy crossed his face. Only understanding. Perhaps grief. Perhaps respect. Perhaps both. You are choosing Monroe? He asked. Emily folded the signed documents into order. I am choosing the work I want to do next. That was not what I asked. No, she said, looking up. But it is the answer that matters. For 1 second, his face almost broke. Then he smiled. Not happily. Correctly. Yes, he said. It is. The afternoon council ended with signatures from both territories. No songs. No public reunion. No kneeling apology large enough to make old pain entertaining for witnesses. Only ink drying on fairer terms than either kingdom had expected. When the last seal was pressed, Thomas Reed raised a cup and said, "To spring roads that do not collapse beneath clever wording." Emily looked at him. He cleared his throat. And to Lady Harper, who notices clever wording before it becomes theft. The room lifted their cups. Blackwood and Monroe alike. Emily sat still for one breath. Then raised hers. Not because they finally saw her. Because she saw herself well enough now to accept it. After council, the delegations gathered in the courtyard. Horses stamped in thawing mud. Spring sunlight touched the snow remaining along the walls. Adrian stood near his black horse with Marcus beside him. Emily walked out with the signed documents under one arm. Adrian turned. This time, he did not reach for her. He did not say come home. He did not ask when he would see her again. He only bowed. Lady Harper. She nodded. Alpha King Blackwood. The title no longer hurt. That was how she knew something had healed. Not everything. Enough. Marcus approached after Adrian mounted. He handed her a small packet wrapped in brown paper. From the palace clerks, he said. Emily opened it after he stepped back. Inside was a new council seal. Not Blackwood. Not Monroe. A simple silver stamp bearing her initials. E. H. Independent advisor. Her vision blurred. Only briefly. Marcus pretended not to see. Good man. Cruel man. Loyal man. Adrian looked at the seal. Then at her. For one final moment, the past stood between them wearing all its almosts. Almost chosen. Almost loved correctly. Almost home. Then Emily closed her hand around the seal, and the almosts lost their claim. Blackwood rode west before sunset. Adrian did not look back until he reached the gate. Emily did not blame him. She did not wave. But she did stand there, in clear view, letting him see the woman he had finally learned not to call back. When he disappeared beyond the ridge, Emily felt sadness. Real. Quiet. Clean. Then the wind moved, carrying the smell of thawing earth from the fields. Spring. Caleb came to stand several feet away. Will you stay for supper? He asked. Emily looked at him. The question was simple. No claim hidden beneath it. No future demanded in exchange for bread. Just supper. Just today. She slipped the new seal into her pocket beside the old crown clasp. Repair. Authority. Past. Future. Both hers now. Yes, she said. For supper. Caleb smiled, but did not make the answer larger than it was. Together, they walked toward Monroe Hall, not touching, not promising, not rushing the quiet shape of what might come next. Behind them, the road split west toward Blackwood and east toward river villages waiting for spring grain. Emily did not look back. For years, she had loved the Alpha King alone. Then she left. He chased. He learned. He arrived too late to reclaim her, but not too late to become a better king because of the woman he had lost. And Emily Harper, once hidden behind a throne she kept from breaking, stepped into spring with her own seal, her own name, and a chair at whatever table she chose next.